Hello. Do you know what today is? Do you know what today is? It's Tell It Tuesday. How you guys doing? Did you have a good week? I hope so. I stopped by today to talk about a little bit of science. Neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity refers to the term that describes the fact that we can create new neural pathways, new neurons, and contrary to popular belief, we used to think that once your brain was the way your brain was, that it was going to remain that way, but that is not true. Just think about the person who may have traumatic brain injury. There are two different types of neuroplasticity. There's structural neuroplasticity and functional neuroplasticity. For the injury, that would be functional neuroplasticity. What that simply means is that even if certain parts of the brain are injured, because we're so divinely made, other parts of the brain can be elicited to overcompensate for damaged areas. And so, when someone has TBI or some type of other head trauma that, can't be accounted for in other ways, and they lose the acquisition of speech, or they lose the acquisition to be able to walk or to reason, or whatever the case may be, a lot of times they can relearn those things. And it's not because the part of the brain that was damaged that took those abilities away was repaired. Sometimes it's because other parts of the brain have been stimulated to compensate. So if I could have a damaged part of my brain that we can retrain the brain to compensate for, imagine what happens with the structural neuroplasticity. What does that mean? Well, basically what that means is that I may have certain ways of processing information that are intrinsic, like a road, like a pathway. I learned this from Dr. Tracy Marks. Basically what she says is that we have familiar paths in our brain, the way that we process information. And maybe some of them are adaptive and some of them are not adaptive. But when we want to change, we can actually practice good behaviors long enough, positive self-talk, metacognition, mindfulness, learning a new skill that will allow us to create brand new pathways in our brain, even at 50, 60, 70, especially in youth. So what does that look like? What that means is that if I'm able to identify sources of anxiety, stress, depression, and I tend to have panic attacks, for example, and I learned ways to restructure cognitively how to process my anxiety or my depression or my deprecation, then I can actually light up new parts of my brain that have never been used before and make new neural connections that when I feel stressed, I can do deep breathing. That when I feel like I'm not loving myself that day, I can speak affirmations. Do you know that we can make these things a habit, and different parts of our brain will actually light up on an fMRI to show new neural pathways just because of what we speak into ourselves? This neuroplasticity cannot be taught in a Tell It Tuesday, but the bottom line is you can rewire your brain if you understand how to restructure connections between how we think, how we feel, what our belief system is, and then to interject with coping strategies to unravel old belief systems, old ways of being that made us feel stuck. And we can open up a whole new world. And not only is it my idea or other, neurochemistry majors or, physicians and psychiatrists and philosophers, but also it shows up on imaging, which can show you that your psychology and your physiology are definitely related, and that they're almost married. So I look forward to teaching you more about neuroplasticity, cognitive rewiring, cognitive restructuring, and the ability to become our own medicine. We'll talk about it more. You have a great week. It's Tell It Tuesday, neuroplasticity. Look it up. Neurosynaptic. Look it up. I promise you it's true. All right. It's magic.